is because of God's great amazing grace. That we can come into this place, that we can worship God, that we can say thank you. Hear these words from the 17th chapter of the book of Luke. It's the story of the 10 lepers. 17th chapter of Luke, verse 11. On the way to Jerusalem, Jesus was going through the region between Samaria and Galilee. As he entered the village, 10 lepers approached him. Keeping their distance, they called out, saying, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." When he saw them, he said to them, "Go and show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, they were made clean. Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice. He prostrated himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him, and he was a Samaritan. Then Jesus asked, "Were not 10 made clean? But the other 9, where are they? Was none of them found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner?" Then he said to him, "Get up and go on your way. Your faith has made you well." Let us pray. Oh God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be pleasing and acceptable to you, O God, our rock, our strength, and our Redeemer. Amen. As I shared in the children's sermon this morning, most of us experienced those simple cues. What do you say if you want something? Please. And now what do you say now that you've gotten something? Thank you. We've learned those words. We've practiced those words. From the moment Olivia could speak, we were practicing those words. She's got more manners than anybody I know, including myself. She can get all that from me. It takes a village to raise my child, and you've done well. But our kids know that stuff. Every one of these kids down here can tell you please and thank you. They have great manners. And we'll keep practicing with them, right? All the way through. But what happens? What happens when we get it into their brain, please, thank you? It becomes rote, doesn't it? It becomes something that is said maybe so much that we might just forget its meaning to some degree. It becomes a habitual word, not something with depth and meaning. They can lose their meaning somehow. There's no true thought behind them. It's almost as bad as if you didn't even say thank you at all. So I want to challenge us today to live a life of gratitude, to frame our consideration of thanksgiving and gratitude as an integral part of our lives. And to do that, we have this healing story in this text today, the 10 lepers from Luke's Gospel. And I think it's one of the best stories in the Gospels to show the importance of gratitude in our lives. 10 lepers were healed from their skin disease. But only one, the Samaritan, returned to give thanks to Christ. And when he did, true healing happened. As Jesus said, "Get up and go. Your faith has made you well." When I was in seminary, I received one of the greatest life lessons ever. It was in one of the most unfortunate ways ever, but it was a life lesson nonetheless. One of my classes had a required Saturday event that we had to attend. There was lots of grumbling among us. in that class. Some of us had to prepare for Sunday morning. Some of us in seminary were preaching on Sunday morning. So to take away our Saturday was very difficult because some of us were last-minute sermon preppers and needed to cram for worship or the sermon or whatever. Some of us just like to sleep in, stay in our pajamas on Saturday. Regardless, it was not a pretty thing to require a class on Saturday morning. We had to be on site early on Saturday morning. And the professor of this particular class, out of her own pocket, brought in donuts, juice, and coffee for all of us on her way to work that morning. It was to make that morning a bit easier for us. And we all enjoyed that special treat. We gobbled that stuff down. It was Saturday morning. We didn't want to be there. We gobbled it down. But we found out 2 days later that not a single person in the class had bothered to thank the professor for her generous gift. This woman had left her house early to get the treat on her way in that morning. There were a large number of folks in that class. It was a lot of money to put out to give us that. And out of that large number of folks in that class who enjoyed those donuts and that juice and that coffee, not one of us bothered to say thank you to our teacher. And when the professor pointed that out a couple days later, we quickly rushed to offer our thanks. But the damage was already done. It was too late at that point. But here's the thing that we have to consider today. How would our thank yous be different if our lives literally depended on what someone else did for us? In one respect, it's so easy for us to just throw out thank yous here and there and everywhere as we go about our day-to-day lives. But by the same token, it's also quite easy for us to forget to say thank you from time to time when somebody extends a nice gesture to us. But that changes quite a lot when our very life hangs in the balance and our well-being is in someone else's hands. Or at least it should change, right? What we see in our scripture reading this morning is that gratitude is one of the most important aspects of a life of faith. Gratitude is one of the most important aspects of a life of faith. The reading from Luke today tells the story of 10 lepers who were healed by Jesus. But the thing is, the story isn't really about the healing. That's more of a sidebar of the actual story. The actual story is about the one leper who came back to Jesus to say, thank you. And even as we consider the gratitude that was expressed by this leper, what Jesus really wants to teach us is a lesson of faithful discipleship. This healing story falls in Luke's gospel in the middle of an extended lesson on discipleship. If you read all the way around this text in the Bible in Luke, you will see that there are a lot of stories there telling us, teaching us about faithful discipleship. And what we need to understand here is that to have faith is to live it. And if we're living faith, is to give thanks. If you have faith, then we are to live it. And if we're living it, then we give thanks. They go hand in hand. It's living a life of gratitude that constitutes living a life of faith. Being a faithful disciple. It's the sort of grateful faith that has made this man from Samaria truly well. I think Jesus wants us to see that faith and gratitude are really two words for the very same thing. To practice gratitude is to practice faith. If faith is not something we have, but something we do, something we live, then in living, we express our complete trust in God and offer all of our gratitude to God, the giver of all good things. Well, let me tell you, gratitude can be hard, can't it? It can be pretty difficult. Because not everything in our lives is good, is it? So then doubt creeps into the equation. And we begin to wonder how we can have faith in a good and generous God when things are going badly. And maybe that's what the other 9 lepers were thinking. They didn't return to Jesus to give thanks because maybe they thought they were doubting the God who would allow them to be made ill and cast out in the first place. Maybe that's what was going on in the other 9 lepers' heads. We've all been there, haven't we? Family members taken away from us suddenly, tragically. We lose our job. Or a child is diagnosed with terminal cancer or any other diagnosis. And suddenly it feels like the foundation of our faith is ripped right out from under us. But to that, Christ would say, you can still give thanks. That's what the story of the healing of the 10 lepers, or maybe I should say the 1 leper, is all about. And of course, if we consider that leper's healing, we think, of course he's grateful. He was healed. His life got better. That makes it easy to give thanks. But here's the thing. That 1 leper wasn't truly healed until he returned to give thanks to Christ. Only then did Jesus say, your faith has made you well. And here's the real lesson. Faith can make us well too, even in the midst of pain and loss. Indeed, our faith can falter at times. But to that, Jesus says, in essence, be thankful anyway. In all circumstances, Paul says, give thanks. Because there is yet much to thank God for, isn't there? We can be thankful for the family that still surrounds us. We can be thankful for the doctors and nurses who cared for our loved ones in their final moments, or who gave their all to help us through pain and on the way to healing after an accident or surgery or disease. We can be thankful for the church and all who are a part of it, which supports us in the midst of our tragedies. And even when it's difficult to muster that sort of thankfulness, we can yet be thankful for the coworker who bought our lunch last week, or the person who offered his place in line at the grocery store. We can be thankful for the roof over our heads, the clothes on our backs, the food on our tables. Sometimes things may be so hopeless that we have to look in the most insignificant places to find something for which to be thankful. But what Jesus wants us to know today is that if we can do that, if we can express gratitude in even the smallest of ways, we will find ourselves on the road to true healing. And isn't that what this journey of Christian discipleship is all about? Seeking faith in all things, at all times, and in all places. My friends, the demands of the Christian life are great. And sometimes, even perhaps, a lot of times, we don't think we're well equipped enough. We don't think we're equipped enough to handle what needs to happen on our Christian journey. But Jesus reminds us that in living our faith, by giving thanks in all things, we are given all the faith that we require. Everything we need is within us. Pastor Mike preached last week, even the faith the size of what? A mustard seed can move a mountain, can uproot a tree. Just that little bit. We have all we need. Now let's add the gratitude piece. You see, my friends, that means there's a lesson here for us. For all of us. The healed and the sick. For all of us. The delivered and those that are still bound. For all of us. The successful and the out of work. If prayers of thanks are a part of the soul's healing and deliverance, then the physical circumstances that the one who is praying to God has, they become less consequential. They become less important. It's in thanking. It is thanking that saved the grateful leper. And such thankfulness is possible for all of us in every circumstance. One person can give thanks for his pleasant experience or whatever's going on, while another can thank God for bolstering her up during a hard time. If we can practice intentional gratitude, if we can practice gratitude with intention, it will change our lives. That's what we need to hear above all else. The 10 lepers were healed by Jesus, but only the one leper who returned to give thanks was saved. We need to be deliberate about saying thank you every day. We certainly can't miss the opportunities that are right in front of us, like my seminary friends and I did. But we have to go further than that. We have to seek out opportunities to say thank you. It's not enough for just those that happen our way. We have to seek out opportunities to say thank you to one another, and especially to God. And we have to do that most especially when it feels as if there's nothing even worth giving thanks for. Did you hear that? We have to do that most especially when it feels as if there's nothing worth giving thanks for. Pastor Chuck Swindoll tells the story of a visit to a veterans hospital. He was visiting a man there, and he says, "The day I arrived to visit, I saw a touching scene. This man had a young son, and during this man's confinement in the hospital, he had made a little wooden truck for his boy. And since the boy was not allowed to go into the ward and visit his father, an orderly had brought the gift down to the child. He was waiting in front of the hospital with his mother. And the father was looking out from the 5th floor window, anxiously watching his son unwrap the gift. The little boy opened the package, and his eyes got wide when he saw the wonderful little truck. He hugged it to his chest. And meanwhile, the father was walking back and forth, waving his arms behind the window pane, trying to get his son's attention. The little boy put the truck down and reached up and hugged the orderly and thanked him for the truck. And all the while, the frustrated father was going through these dramatic gestures, trying to say, "It's me, son. I made the truck for you. I gave it to you. Look up here." Chuck says I could almost read his lips. Finally, the mother and the orderly turned the boy's attention up to the 5th floor window. And it was then that the boy cried, "Daddy! Oh, thank you. I miss you, Daddy. Come home, Daddy. Thank you for my truck." And the father stood in the window with tears pouring down his cheeks. How much like that child are we? How often do we pour our gratitude out to our waiting Father who has so blessed us? Probably not often enough. Not often enough. We forget to look up, don't we? God gives us all of himself, even his very Son. And too often, we've never given to him even a word of thanks because we're too focused on ourselves and on our own problems. The story of the 10 lepers reminds us that if our faith is genuine, we will never ever cease thanking God for the many blessings of our lives. My friends, as we leave this place today, I encourage you, I encourage all of us, take that moment. Don't just do the rote thank you. Take that moment. Go inside yourself and sincerely, from the very bottom of your heart, from the bottom of your gut, from the bottom of who you are, cry out to God, "Thank you. Thank you." Even in the hard stuff, even in the hard stuff, God calls us to give thanks as we live our lives of faith, following him. May it be so. May it be so.